Hey everybody, welcome back to Motor Files. It's episode 15. I'm here at the HQ and we're doing El Camino stuff today. Found out through my OBD2 scanner that I had an issue with my long-term fuel trim on my O2 sensor. So essentially what was happening was my exhaust gaskets were blown out. Uh, I think maybe the header bolts, kind of loosened up as it got warm, and I was getting airflow past the exhaust gaskets. It was giving a false lean reading on my O2 sensors, which was causing the fuel injectors to dump fuel into the cylinders, and it was running super rich and super lean and just kind of all over the place. And that was causing some gas mileage issues, obviously, some fuel delivery issues, and a variety of other things. However, we do have a solution. So I'll show you here on the bench. Sorry, it's dirty. I have some stage 8 locking fasteners, which is basically they have these little tabs with a C-clip, as you can see, and then some really nice fasteners that'll tighten up there. Then I've got a fresh set of Remflex gaskets. If you don't know what Remflex gaskets are, check them out. They are the best gaskets in the game, in my opinion. I've had them on the small block before the LS, and then I have a set on the LS now. They blew out because I used some non-locking fasteners. The gaskets were completely great, but because the exhaust has kind of melted them because they weren't sealing properly, I'm going to do a fresh set because I'm already there. I also have the crank sensor O-ring I need to do, which is on the passenger side. I think if I move the exhaust manifold out of the way a little bit when I take the bolts off, I'll be able to get to that easier without having to drop the starter. We'll see when we get there. Super excited to get this situated and hopefully seal up the exhaust again so the car runs a little bit better. So let's get over to the El Camino. I'll get it all set up, talk about how I'm going to pull these header gaskets and bolts out, and then how we're going to install the new Stage 8 locking fasteners with Remflex gaskets. It's going to be a fun one. Stick around. I'm really excited to hopefully fix this exhaust leak issue. Run it up. Check the scope. Perfect. All right, we got car opened up. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to disconnect the negative ground. And then what we're going to do here is we got to get into these gaskets down here. I'm going to make myself a little bit of room. I'm going to pull these spark plug wires out and move them out of the way for a little bit. And then we will start taking these bolts off. Kicking down the door, run it up, check the scope, money talk, money mo. What? Main crew say they with it. Well, as you can see, we got the gasket out. Obviously the gasket ripped, as you saw, which is normal, but if you can see how there's that line right there, that's because exhaust gases were escaping by and it split the gasket right there. Not a problem. So here we are down here. Let's see how I filmed that, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide a new gasket here and then put the center bolt in to hold it up, and then throw the other bolts in. When I do that, these Stage 8 bolts, I'm going to give it a little bit of dab of this ARP assembly lubricant. Nothing crazy, just a tiny bit, so that way if we do have to pull these off again, I'm going to set those right there. When I built this motor, it was a pull out of an O2 Tahoe, and the factory manifolds I had to pull off because it was all part of the motor that they pulled out. I think they just cut them at the end of the factory, or at the end of the O2 sensors off the factory manifolds. Two of the bolts were stuck to the head because they didn't put any kind of lubricant, any kind of thread lubricant on there, or anti-seize, when they probably changed the gaskets out, if they ever did in the Tahoe when the motor was originally in the Tahoe. So we're going to try to prevent that from happening because I don't want to weld on these heads again, and that would just create a mess. A little bit of lubricant goes a long way. So I'm going to get down in there and we are going to slowly get the new manifold bolts put in. And I'll talk to you about the torque sequence and then how we install the fasteners, the stage 8 fasteners, so they don't back out.
Down the door. Let's go. And it's the whole lane when I'm driving the machine. True vision, big dream. Kingpin of the scene. King. They be talking on the net. I just count the green. Cash. From a phantom to a ghost. You know what I mean. Yeah.
Well, we did it. I have the bolts in. All 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them. Maybe hard to see. Good around the GoPro. Remflex gaskets are a little different than standard header gaskets. You want to snug them down evenly and then to 20 foot-pounds. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my torque wrench out over there. I'm going to go one pass 5 foot-pounds and then increments of 5 after that up to 20. So I'm going to get that all snugged up, and then I'll show you how we're going to put in the locking part of the fasteners.
On a whole nother level. Let's get it. Endless chances that I took with the whole team. My team. Snake shedding their skin, see the fake.
That took a little bit of finesse there, but we got the bolts on. As you can see, we got our locking fasteners. Well, the bolt part of the fastener all lined up there. So next step is there's a couple different types of locking tabs, if you will. So I have this one, for example. And then what you got to do is you throw that on there like that. And then you want it to where if the bolt backs out left, it'll catch on either like the header, the flange, somewhere around there. And you've got a little C-clip like that. And then it goes on there. Now you see it? So now it's locked to the header. And so if this does back out, it'll turn left and then this little tab will catch it. So now I'm going to go through, and I'm going to go to the 5 other bolts and put locking tabs on, and I'll show you what that looks like here in a second.
Real balls, new whip, off white, so clean. Rhyme with the heavy metal, make a big scene. Haters see me winning when my dogs survive. Feed the haters alphabet, let them subscribe. Man, I had to play my moves right, give me my crown. Give me that fire, the whole game up. Cities my playground. My town. They be making wild claims out of nowhere.
A little finicky to get the clips to go on, but if you just take your time and do it right, I highly recommend, if you're doing this at home, investing in one of these long reach bendable magnets, because when you drop one of these and they go down the headers, it's really fun to fish it out. And you know, I always try to avoid crawling on the ground unless I have to. So let's show you what's going on here. Got our locking tabs on all of them. Get you a good angle. So hopefully these suckers won't back out. I think they're gonna work great. I mean, obviously you're not gonna see them once I put the spark plug boots on, but it's looking good. I'm liking it, and I'm hoping this will work well. I mean, these things aren't moving. They're not gonna rattle or anything. I'll call that a success for the driver's side. So I'm gonna get the driver's side buttoned up, and then let's go over to the passenger side.
Uncle taught me by the snakes, why I shouldn't fear them. Enemies in my blind spot, had to clear them, had to steer them. Fans wanna see the show, no rehearsal, I just appear. I'm here, run it up, check the scope. Money talk, money more. Yeah, main crusade ain't with it, kicking down the door. Run it up, check the scope. Money talk.
I ran into a little bit of a hiccup with this project. What's going on is I'm gonna end up having to pull the header because it's rubbing right here on the control arm, and I just don't have enough room. So I think the game plan is I'm going to unhook it, disconnect the O2 sensor, pull the header out, drop down the starter, get to that crank position sensor O-ring, slap it all back together, and reinstall the header. That'll give me plenty of room to clean off all this gasket material. No big deal. We'll get this solved. I don't think I have enough daylight today, so I'm going to have to pick it up the next day, tomorrow. Back at it, day 2. Over here, let me show you what I got going on. So I've pulled all the bolts out. I've disconnected my O2 sensor down here. And I'm going to get under the car, get my light out, And I've got to unhook the header right there. I'm hoping I don't trash this gasket. I'm going to try to snake the header out and up. And hopefully the crank position sensor is right down there. We'll be able to get to that, change the O-ring out, make sure everything looks nice and tidy while I'm there, clean a few things up, and then we'll be able to put the header back in, put the stage 8 fasteners on and the new gasket, and then bolt it all together. And fingers crossed, everything's going to work out. So without further ado, I'm going to get under the car and we're going to pull that the bottom of the header out off the collector. Hopefully my angle turned out well, so I pulled the crank sensor out, it's sitting right here. The O-ring's definitely a little shot, and you can see that we got a little bit of splooge coming past the O-ring. Down here, we definitely got a little bit of buildup, and I think that also the valve cover gasket isn't great. I'm going to clean off this gasket stuff, clean all that up, and then I'll see if I can get some valve cover gaskets. I've got the header right here, so I got to clean off this gasket material. The collector gasket actually looked okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to wipe it off, and then I'll put a little bit more red RTV here before we go back together. But you can definitely tell that the gaskets are just blown out. Yeah, it's coming along, so I'm just going to keep on cranking away. I'm going to get this O-ring swapped out. We're going to clean up the mounting surface, and then I will update you once I get the header back in and the starter reinstalled, and then we'll talk about what's next on this project. I'm covered in grease, so you know it's a good day. Since we talked last, I put in a new line for my transmission while I was there, because my old one here was an AN line I made, and I had two AN lines here originally when I did the swap, and this top one blew out, so this second return was getting ready to blow because they aren't crimped lines like these ones. We got that fixed. I put the second line in. We'll get that tidied up here in a minute. Now I have the starter back in, put the new sensor, crank sensor O-ring in. So now I've got the headers loosely, not that loose, but somewhat loosely lined up here. So I'm going to go drop the gasket in, get the bolts started, and get them torqued down just like before. Then I put some red RTV sealant on the header flange, exhaust side of the header flange. Everything's looking good. Definitely was on the struggle bus a little bit. The flanges here, this side of the flange was caked on with blown out gasket, as expected. I'm going to get the exhaust put back on, torqued down, and clipped on, and then we'll pick up there after I get that finished up. Got up under the hood, purring, that's a Porsche for real. Speaking in the studio, dropping his voice is moving. Icebox where the watch was, big jacuzzi. Vision so clear, Spike Lee, it's a movie. Action, keep the whole squad tight, family, we ain't losing. Never. Yo, real business. All gas business. Keep the circle business. Well, everybody, we've done it. Project's looking great so far. There's a million things going on with this car. There's always something. That's what makes it fun. So what did we get done in this episode? Fresh exhaust gaskets, how to pull a header out, install it, new header fasteners from Stage 8. Really like them. Big fan of the product. Hopefully they have some other stuff for the LS. I'll look into that. Maybe we'll install that as well. We have updated transmission lines. So that looks really nice and tidy, and they're matching. I quite like those anodized clamps there, and it just kind of keeps everything out of the way. I might have some more stuff going on with the transmission soon, I think. We'll talk about that in a future episode. What else do I have going on for this project? Oh, we got the bed hooks we got to try out still. I've got to trim the bed liner that drops in, which I'll work on soon. I wanted to get this done because it was kind of causing a runnability issue. I'm going to look at the intake manifold and see if there's a way to kind of get some more power out of it, and look at some other tuning things to get this car dialed in. I want to check out the front end. I think I've got a ball joint or two that needs to be replaced. I've never done the bearings, the front bearings in this car, or the rear bearings. So I'll do an episode on that and going through. I want to add a couple things to the brake system and just general fun things to the car. So definitely stay tuned on future episodes on this project. I've got another project coming soon I keep on talking about to the channel. That one's I'm really excited about. I'm working on some final details for that. Thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. And I will see you on the next episode. Go find something cool and break it, build it, and break it again.
Yeah, we gone, 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 gone.